Bizarre Brain Comics. Gary here for Bizarre Brain Comics. And this is where we like to talk about old comics, break down the art, tell about the story, talk about a little bit about the creators. And what we're going to look at today is Army War Heroes number 36, featuring the Iron Corporal. And the name of this story is Life and Death on the Forward Perimeter. This book is from Modern Comics, which is a Charlton imprint, which is they use primarily for the reprint stuff. And this is a reprint. This is from 1978. It's a reprint of the exact same comic book from 1969. At this time, Charlton was doing a lot of reprint stuff. And all, if not most, if not all, of their reprint stuff was under the Modern Comics imprint. I think that was for special multi-packs for like department stores and stuff. One should have 3, 4, 5 issues for just a couple of bucks. And this story is by, what was the writer's name? Willi Franz, I think it was. Yeah. Willi Franz. He's someone I'm unfamiliar with. And it's drawn by Sam Glanzman. And Sam Glanzman is fairly well known, especially in war comics. So let's take a little look into the big book of knowledge at our man Sam. This is, oh yeah, and I also wanted to say that these reprints, they seem to be just reprint issues at random. It's not like they started reprinting Army War Heroes from number 1 up through this issue 36. For Modern Comics, it just seemed to reprint old issues at random. Okay, our Army. No, yeah, I think I wrote that wrong. Army War Heroes. I did write that wrong. Army War Heroes, number 36. Featuring the Iron Corporal, Life and Death on the Forward Perimeter by Willi Franz and Sam Glanzman. Don't know anything about Willi Franz, but Sam Glanzman is from 1924 to 2017. He's an American cartoonist and memoirist. I'll get to that, why he's a memoirist. He's best known for his work at Charlton Comics on the series Hercules, which had 13 issues and then was reprinted several times over the years, recounting the 12 labors of Hercules. I have several issues of that. That would be nice to have all of them combined in one volume. Maybe it's been done and I have just never seen it. He's also well known for his work on war comics, especially his autobiographical work based on his service on the USS Stevens for DC Comics. And he was born to a Jewish father and Catholic mother. This is in somewhere in New York. His brothers, DC Glanzman and Lou Glanzman, were also comic artists. But I gather his brother Lou was also a little later a fine artist. With only a grade school education, he entered the comics business in 1939 by working at Funnies Inc., which was a packager, a supply house which provided comic stories to publishers. And he worked for various publishers such as Harvey and created Flyman in 1941. He also worked on the radio tie-in series of the Green Hornet through 1943. You remember the Green Hornet? That was before Bruce Lee. Based on the radio show. He served in the Navy, stationed aboard the destroyer USS Stevens, and was discharged in 1946. And not getting paid enough in comics, he worked at several manual labor jobs for some years. And in 1950, he got married. Then he got back into the art field in 1952. He also was doing some comics. And he also did children's book illustrations, which paid better. Later, working for Charlton, he specialized in war stories, and for other publishers, he drew some stuff like Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, the adaptation of the movie, not the TV series, and Kona, Monarch of Monster Isle. I have a couple of issues of that. And he continued with war stories for various publishers, primarily DC. He did the series, the USS Stevens, as I mentioned, and the Haunted Tank, and then various and sundry other individual non-serialized stories. And he continued working. He even did a graphic novel based on his USS Stevens series for Marvel Comics. And even in 2003, he began working on webcomics. So he kept his hand in there. Okay. Let's go see a little war action and tragedy from Army War Heroes number 36. Okay, there we are. Now you can see the whole front cover. Army War Heroes. Has a slight tear here. Looks like there had been some tape or something on there and it got pulled off. And this is the cover illustration, and it's drawn by Sam Glanzman. This features the Iron Corporal. I don't know why he's called the Iron Corporal. It doesn't tell in the story, but it probably did at one time or another. I assume that he was a recurring character in this title back in the 60s. And now, unlike most American war comic stories, which involved American troops, soldiers, sailors, Marines, etc., in the theater of war, this is about an Australian unit. And it's unspecified where, but it's could be New Zealand, or rather New Guinea, or one of the other South Pacific islands, in which the Allies were engaged in conflict with the Japanese forces. So then here, let's take a little look inside. The Iron Corporal, Life and Death on the Forward Perimeter. And it's the very first panel here. Nice establishing shot. Shows how that they're in the jungle somewhere, or at least in the forest. Here's the unit. They have it shows radio equipment, and it says that they are a radio post. And how does it describe it? Up on the forward perimeter was a trial even for the most patient and enduring. We were constantly being harassed by an elusive Japanese sniper who had already wounded the young Captain McPhillips, as well as 2 NCOs from A Company. Their radio signals relay station. So they would have radio signals come in, and because of distance, they didn't carry far enough, and then they would relay that radio signal. And that explains why they would have Japanese forces there harassing them. And these guys here are in a little bit of a scrap with each other over something silly, as happens. I guess the one guy had this mule, and he named it Doris, which is the same name as the other guy's mother, and he takes offense to it. I can kind of see that. My mother's name was Doris as well, so I can see it. And one of the guys just goes up and, oh, she's cute, and gives her a little kiss. Now you can see here, I'll wait till we get to the next page, we get some little better imagery. Yeah, you can see here that, oh, here's this one. I think his name was Freddie. Richie, Private Richie. And he's not helping the situation at all. Kind of fuels the stuff. And he's always talking about women. And you can see here that Sam Glanzman's style was not as clean, as crisp as, for example, what some of the other artists. He is it's more organic, a lot like Joe Kubert. Although I don't think his draftsmanship is nearly up to the scale as Joe Kubert's was, but there's a certain similarity, and it works. I think it works pretty well for this kind of material and war stuff, and like for his Hercules, the jungle type settings, the very things that require rough imagery. And here he's Richie's being an ass to the ass, and so the ass kicks him in the ass. And he gets his comeuppance. Well, these guys, and so he's kind of cowed for just a moment or two, and the other guys are hanging around, just doing things that soldiers do in idle moments, writing letters or talking and eating. He's eating here, and this other guy, this other soldier here, he's eating. He's a chubby fella, and he's always talking about food. So he's getting bullied a little bit by his buddies, as happens. They take away his food, and Richie here, he's got his can of food, and suddenly he is in the sights of a sniper rifle. Pew! And it happens to shoot that can of food right out of his hand. So everyone hits the dirt, and Richie takes a pot shot into the forest where I think the shot came from. Well, they don't know where it was. So the Iron Corporal here, the blonde fella, takes Private Richie with him. They go into the forest, and they're looking for that sniper. Meanwhile, Richie is still talking about women and food. And the Corporal says, "I swear, Richie, a woman will be the death of you yet." Well, tell me, Ian, will it be a beautiful woman, one who can cook? Yeah, why not? And they continue on, and then Richie, he sneaks up just a little bit farther. He sees something. He goes ahead, and there, bam, bam. Did you get him? I got it. Got it? He got a bird for supper. They're supposed to be out there looking for this sniper, and he gives their location away by shooting. While he's holding up his prize, bam! He gets a bullet right through his brain pan. Right, cuts clean through his helmet, all the way through his head, and he falls down dead. Then a quick second shot hits the corporal. He's just winged, but he kind of plays dead. As he gets down under cover, takes a couple moments, and he sneaks up, crawls up to the corpse of his buddy, and he's really pissed. And he gets the bayonet off of Richie's rifle. And the sniper, you can see here, the sniper has these spiked gizmos on his feet so to help him climb trees so he can get in a better position for sniping. And that's a really nice depiction of the bayonet. I have one just like it somewhere. And he plays dead, and the sniper comes up to check his handiwork, and the corporal jumps up and shoves the bayonet. This is rather brutal. Fortunately, it doesn't show it in real graphic detail. Really brutal. Shoves that bayonet right up to the hilt into the belly of this sniper. And the helmet falls off, and a fountain of beautiful black hair comes streaming down. And he sees that the sniper was a woman. He lets her fall dead to the forest floor. And then he turns to the corpse of his buddy. I told you, Richie. I told you that a woman would be the death of you. And here he is, leaving the corpse of the sniper. And he cries over the body of his dead friend before picking him up and taking him back to camp. See, when I said about the tragedy, the action and the tragedy, and probably should have said the terror of the war in this book, and that's the end of that story. This book has some other stuff, a little piece talking about the German Stuka aircraft, and another one depicting some of the hazards of the war in Vietnam before coming up to another story back from World War II, this time featuring American soldiers. So that's all I've got for the Iron Corporal. I want to say about his, as I said, his Sam Glanzman style is slightly stylized, slightly cartoonish, while still being overall realistic. As I said, organic. He has some really nice visual panel-to-panel storytelling. He was very good at that. He knew just what he was doing there. Was able to skillfully depict it. It was relatively dynamic. A good depiction overall. A good depiction. Personally, I'm not as entirely thrilled with his style, at least in the war comics, as I like his stuff with the Kona and Hercules stuff. But that's just me. It's perfectly adequate, tells the story, and is a fine artist. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Share it with your comic book friends or people who are just interested in war comics or war stories in general. And remember, comics are art.